Welcome back to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know leading into this week's NRL matches. It is round 10 this week. It is the all-special Magic round, which we missed out on last year as a result of COVID, if my memory serves correct. I think I'm right on that. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments section. It's been a crazy 2 years. Before we get into this week's round 10 preview, team lists, etc., I just want to make a small announcement. If you have been listening to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest podcast, I have decided to can that. I appreciate you all for your support if you have been listening. If you haven't, then I don't appreciate anything. No, I appreciate you watching this. I've decided to can it, not because I wasn't enjoying myself, just because I was enjoying the interaction through the YouTube channel a lot more. I like the feedback that I get through the YouTube channel. And so I've decided to commit all my time to this, as well as some other artistic endeavors, which I may or may not mention down the track. Let's get into this week's team lists. First game before we get into the team lists, I will just recap my tips for last week. So if you'll remember, if you're watching last week, I tipped the Storm to win by 10 points. Last week, I tipped the Panthers by 18, Eels by 2, Raiders by 20. That obviously didn't happen. Titans by 8. I actually picked that exact margin. I should have put a bet on that because it was probably paying a little mint there. Unfortunately, did not get on that. I tipped the Broncos by 4. They lost by a point, but a very, very stoic effort from the Brisbane Broncos. They should be really proud of how they've played over the last couple of weeks. Seagulls by 2, they won that game, and Dragons by 16, they also won that game. So I tipped a total of, 6 from 8, not too bad. First game of the Magic round. All these games are from Suncorp Stadium, obviously, we know that. On the Friday night, we've got the Tigers playing the Knights. No Thursday night this round. No Thursday night game this round. Just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tigers versus the Knights from Suncorp Stadium from 6 p.m. Tigers are coming off a loss to the Titans. They lost 28-36. They gave up 45.4 meters per set versus 31.6 that they put up against the Titans last week. Probably part of the reason why they lost that game, although they could have snapped it at the death, but they just missed out. There were 2 tries from David Norfoluma, really good showing by him. For the Knights, they won their last start against the Raiders. Kalen Ponga had a bloody field day. He had a try assist, 4 goals, a line break assist, and 7 tackle breaks. So Knights are coming off some good form. Head-to-head odds in this game, $2.45 if you like the Tigers, $1.53 for the Knights. Tigers have got a revamped spine this week as per the team list, and there are no changes for the Knights. I'm tipping the Knights to win this one by 10, possibly more. I'm still not convinced as to where the Tigers are at this season, form-wise. I do know the form's not good. I know that much. Second Friday night game is the Seagulls versus the Broncos in what I think is going to be a very entertaining game. Obviously, we know that the Broncos were losers last start. They lost 18-19 against the Cowboys. They just missed out by a point there. Completion rate was a bit poor last week, 69%. If they can clean that up this week, I still don't think they'll win the game, but they'll keep it a lot closer. Seagulls winners against the Warriors in a high-quality, tight contest last week. They won 38-32. Tommy Turbo continues his streak of sublime form. He had 2 tries, 4 try assists, 5 line breaks, 3 line break assists, 8 tackle breaks. You couldn't make up those stats. They're ridiculous. And Jason Saab scored himself a hat-trick. For the Seagulls this week, they welcome back Taniela Paseka. And for the Broncos, Jake Turpin has been named as captain in place of injured lock Patrick Carrigan, who's out for the season with an ACL. Poor bloke. If you like some head-to-head odds on this game, you'll get $1.35 for the Seagulls, $3.15 for the Broncos. I should add that I am getting these odds from the tab. I no longer get them from Ned's. My tip in this game is the Seagulls to win by 20. First Saturday game, again from Suncorp Stadium, Bulldogs, Raiders in a contest of the also-rans. I can't believe I'm saying that, but the Raiders, who are supposed to be a premiership force, are just not that this season, at least at the moment. There's plenty of time to bounce back for them, and what a week, and what an opportunity to bounce back against an equally or perhaps even more desperate team in the Bulldogs. Last start, the Bulldogs, they lost 12-32 against the Dragons. 37 missed tackles for the Bulldogs last week. You're not going to win many games conceding that amount of missed tackles. For the Raiders, they lost to the Knights 16-24. They were actually up 16-0 at halftime if you watch the game. And they just did what they've been doing all season. They led at halftime, looked comfortable, and just gave it away. Only completed at 71%, which is not the worst completion rate, but it's certainly not the best. Interestingly enough, the Raiders had more run meters, tackle breaks, and average set distances than the Knights, and they still didn't come away with the biscuits. Team sheet-wise, for the Bulldogs, they've got a new look halves combination with Kyle Flanagan being dropped this week due to some poor form. For the Raiders, Josh Hodgson returns via the interchange bench. Head-to-head odds in this game, if you like the Bulldogs, you'll get $5.75, which, to be honest, is probably not the worst bet this week. It's probably really good value when you consider the Raiders' form. $1.13 for the Raiders, which I still think is probably a little bit too short given their current trending and current trend of 5 games on the trot lost. My tip, nevertheless, in this game is the Raiders by 26. This is their opportunity to bounce back this season. I think they're going to win big. Second Saturday night game, Sharkies take on the Rabbitohs. Obviously, last week the Rabbitohs were highly embarrassed, losing 50-0 to last year's premiers, the Storm. I expected the Storm to win that game, and I tipped the Storm. I didn't think it was going to be that much of a flogging, and it's really not a good sign for the Rabbitohs, injuries or no injuries, to be losing by that many points. Even if it's against the Storm, they should be a little concerned. I expect them to bounce back to form this week. They missed 29 tackles last week, which is pretty poor. And they only completed at 68% set-wise, which is really not acceptable. For the Sharks, they were the second team that was flogged last week, like well and truly flogged to nil, 48-0 to be exact against the Panthers. They gave up 2,325 run meters compared to the 1,137 meters they put up themselves. That is a huge disparity. That's nearly double the score. In fact, it's more than double the score. That's embarrassing. They conceded 8 line breaks to none and missed a whopping 46 tackles to 16. They can only be better this week. And they get a massive boost in Andrew Fafita, who returns from suspension to play his first game of the year. For the Rabbitohs, Adam Reynolds returns early from injury to partner Benji Marshall in the halves. If you like some juicy odds here, you'll get $3 for the Sharks and $1.38 for the Rabbitohs. I'm expecting the Rabbitohs to win this one by 30. I just have no confidence in the Sharks since they decided to get rid of John Morris prematurely. I think they've only gone downhill. I feel like the playing squad had the confidence of the coach and vice versa, and they were trotting along, reasonably well before he was sacked. I just don't see them beating the Bunnies this week or even coming close. Last game of Saturday evening is the Sydney Roosters versus the North Queensland Cowboys in what I think is going to be a crackerjack game. The Cowboys have probably surprised a lot of critics this season. They've turned it around seemingly. They're still out of the 8. I think they're in 11th spot at the moment, but they're definitely within earshot of making finals if they can continue this pretty consistent form. They have had some easy competition over the last month and a half, admittedly. This is going to be a real test for them. For last week, they beat the Broncos 19-18. They missed a bunch of tackles, 24. 24 is not the worst, but it's still... Oh, no, my apologies. Sorry. They missed 43 tackles compared to Brisbane's 24. in a winning effort, it's a surprise they got away with the cookies, but they've got to be better this week against a Roosters side. Doesn't matter whether you're playing a fully fit Roosters, which obviously they're far from that at the moment, or an injury-ravaged Roosters as they are now. They are always a tough proposition. They did complete at 80% last week, so they're really going to need to take that on board in this clash here. For the Roosters, they lost out to the Eels 18-31. Matty Kavalu, who's the stand-in winger who always does a great job when he comes into grade, he scored a hat-trick. Unfortunately, the Roosters only completed at 70%, which is not great. They'll also have to be better. For the Roosters, in terms of team changes, Lachlan Lamb returns from injury, which will be very welcome given that Drew Hutchison is out for an extended period of time. For the Cowboys, no changes to their 17 that beat the Broncos last week. In the head-to-head market, you'll get $1.23 for the Roosters. $4 for the Cowboys if you fancy them. That's not bad odds, really. But I am nevertheless tipping the Roosters to win this one by 10. I just think they're going to be too strong. On to our Sunday games. Warriors take on the Eels at 1:50 in the afternoon, which is a really odd time for a football game. But I guess that's to do with the Suncorp scheduling. Last start, the Warriors lost to the Seagulls 32-38. That was a close game. Chanel Harris-Tavita, who made his return from injury, scored two tries. For the Eels, they beat the Roosters 31-18. Bryce Cartwright really showed his value off the bench with 2 tries in 52 minutes. Really good effort from him. Good to see that he's able to seemingly turn his career around when it started with so much promise. Back at the Panthers, kind of went a little bit wayward at the Titans. He seems to be back and a really valuable weapon off the bench. Eels were superb in their completion, completed 88%. And they ran for 1,711 meters compared to the Roosters' 1,169. So they will be really buoyed by that effort from their ability to be able to get up the field against a very, very tough Warriors side at the moment. In team changes for the Warriors, Ben Murdoch-Masila returns to the side. For the Eels, Coach Brad Arthur's son Jacob has been named to debut at 5'8" in place of the suspended Dylan Brown after his dirty knees to Drew Hutchison. So that's going to be interesting to watch. In the head-to-head market, $2.90 for the Warriors, $1.40 for the Eels. I think that those head-to-head odds are pretty on the mark. I am tipping the Eels to win this one in a close one by 4 points. Storm Dragons at 4:05 p.m., which is a very standard footballing time for a Sunday afternoon. Storm, obviously, huge winners last start, 50-0 against the Rabbitohs. Thoroughly impressive. Josh Hadokar scored 6 tries. That's not often you see that in the modern-day NRL, but he scored 6 tries, and he did most of them quite comfortably, actually. They tore that Rabbitohs right edge defense to absolute shreds. They did a total number on them. That was a record that stood for like 60, 70 years or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers there. For the Dragons, they also won their last start against the Bulldogs 32-12. Matt Duffy scored 2 tries in that game, and they made a whopping 6 line breaks to none against the Bulldogs. Head-to-head odds, $1.13 for the Storm, $5.75 for the Dragons. I don't see the Dragons getting up in this one. In fact, I've tipped the Storm to win by 14. In team changes for the Storm, Riley Jacks and Kenny Bromwich replace the injured duo of Cam Munster and Harry Grant, taking the 5'8" and hooking roles respectively. Really weird to see Kenny Bromwich at hooker. I don't think he's going to play a traditional hooking role, to be honest. For the Dragons, Michaeli Ravalawa returns from suspension to the wing. Titans Panthers 6:25 rounds off our Magic round matchups. Titans winners last start, both teams winners last start, 36-28 for them against the Tigers. They just got out of jail against a fast-finishing Tigers. They're obviously still having an issue with their second half performances, kind of similar to the Raiders, except they're actually winning games, some games. So they're going to have to be a lot tighter against this Panther side. Otherwise, they're going to get their absolute butts handed to them. Panthers last week, 48-0 against the Sharks. 3 tries to Charlie Staines. I had 6 down there. It's not 6, it was 3 tries. So a hat-trick to Charlie Staines. In a week where I opted to bring him back into my fantasy, NRL fantasy coach side, or super coach, sorry, after he'd been disappointing for so long. 3 tries to him. And a massively ridiculous, almost you wouldn't write about it, shouldn't be a thing, 45 tackle breaks to 16 against the Sharks last week. It's embarrassing for the Sharks and utterly impressive for the Panthers. No changes for the Titans this week in terms of their team lineup. For the Panthers, Liam Martin starts in the back row in place of Kurt Capewell, who's out for a week with an HIA, or as a result of his failed HIA from round 9's clash. In the head-to-head market, $7.50 for the Titans, $1.08 for the Panthers. Do not bet on the Titans. I mean, do what you want to do, but just don't bet on the Titans. There's no way they're going to win this game. But if you like $7.50, hey, maybe it's worth a little flutter. Make sure you bet responsibly. My tip in this game is the Panthers by 24. That has been this week's Round 10 NRL Team List Preview, whatever you want to call it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so. I'm nearly at 50 subscribers. It's taken me long enough. I really appreciate everyone who's subscribed to the channel. And I'd just love to get to that 50 mark. So please subscribe if you haven't. Turn on your notifications. And if you like this video, give me a like. Also, give me your thoughts on these team lists. What would you have done differently? Are your tips a little bit different to mine? I'd like to know what you're tipping. And, maybe we can kind of compare notes. I will see you in the next video.